So hello and welcome back to Climbing on Mount Sophia. I've had a couple requests from different people asking to have my better half join me for some conversations. Um, I've said in other videos at other points that something to the effect that I think is quite accurate, that to the degree that I have come to know wisdom, it's as much due to you as to anything else. At the core of wisdom is the notion of love, and I've learned much more about love from you than from anyone else or anything else. So yeah, so I finally talked her into it. We're gonna do we don't really know what this will be yet, but welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I have not been on camera in a while. That was actually a huge part of my past, was being on camera. That was my college major, broadcast journalism. So it's been a while, and I'm releasing any need to have this look a certain way. And I'm just here to be with you and see where we go.
In our fancy studio with all our fancy equipment.
Yes.
So I guess I don't know what we're gonna do here exactly. We'll just kind of, we've been fortunate, I think, to have good guidance in our marriage and in our relationship up to this point. We've also been, to the degree that we earn any credit for it, it's just because we've listened to when other people have been wise. At least that's for me, not necessarily for you. And then yeah, I mean, we've been married for 5.5 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
We've been together for 8.
Yeah, we've known each other for over 10 now.
Yeah. And so I think in this series, part of what our journeys have been is to go on an internal journey to kind of like try to integrate what it means to be an individual, but also a big part of that has been trying to understand the masculine and the feminine, both individually and collectively, because I think there's a lot of ways in which, at least for me in my upbringing, it was super distorted and misunderstood, and it was very confused. And so I think there's a lot of ways in which we've been able to do that, I think, relatively
swings and roundabouts.
Yes. Relatively well. And so as much as anything, maybe we can just like use this as a format to structure that into some kind of language that can make sense of it for ourselves, and maybe if somebody else finds it helpful too. Welcome along for the journey.
My hope is that us being vulnerable, is that us being vulnerable will be helpful to someone. And we are all about vulnerability and honesty, and we are open to questions. We might not have the answers, but we're willing to dig through them together and see where we go. We've been through a lot, but there's a lot more to get through too. So we're just kind of open books, and we're happy to share. And we also just love doing this all the time. We just just talk about anything and everything. So we're like, well, why not just document it and see where we go?
Well, and one of the good things is like we can't really make any arguments, or anybody can blame us for having too much authority, because we've only been married for 5 years. So
that's true.
If we say things that don't make any sense or that people think are wrong, it's like, well, sorry, we've only been married for 5 years. So
and that's our experience with it.
Yeah. So don't come expecting anything terribly profound, and maybe we'll find something worthwhile and meaningful on the way.
Yeah. I think it is also important to note that we recently had our first baby. She's 4 months old, and so we've been navigating becoming parents together, being reborn ourselves, not only having the birth of our daughter, but the rebirths of ourselves too. So I think that's pretty important to mention during this time specifically. We were just us two for 5 years, and it was wonderful, and we were just 2 kids, and now we have a third that's in our dance with us. It was our dance between 2, and I feel like we kind of had that down, and now we're introducing not only a third person to our dance, but we're also teaching them how to dance and learning from her too. So we're kind of in this just roller coaster of life right now, and it's super fun.
Yeah.
It's been so fun to watch Kenny become a dad.
Oh, well, I would say Yeah, I don't know. It's been hard.
It's been hard.
I'm glad you've had fun watching me. I mean, it's been wonderful to watch you become a mom. That's been really cool. I think, I mean, there were times where it felt more maybe for you than for me that was just an overwhelming calling. And we can get into this more maybe in as we go along, because the issues around bringing a child into the world and what that looks like for a woman, especially in today's day and age, was an interesting thing to navigate.
Absolutely. Yeah, maybe we'll save that one for another episode.
Yeah. Well, because I wanted to just kind of like talk about us and how we came together. And I like using the metaphor of a dance, because I think that's properly what a good relationship is. It's a movement together, and a learning to learn when to lead and when to follow, and when to go strong and in a direction, and also to wait and be slow.
Yeah. Well, and you hope to flow through grace, right? But sometimes you step on each other's toes and it gets a little awkward and messy for a while. And then you pick right back up, and it's just the dance of life.
So we met in college. We met like the first day of college almost. A friend of mine, who was a new friend, had already met Elise and introduced me to her at a soccer game. It's quite one of those moments that's like burned into my memory. Like, I remember walking up to the bleachers, or like the bleachers were up here, and turning, and you were like 3 rows up. And I mean, I'll never forget that. And saying hello and shaking your hand, and I found out pretty quickly that you had a boyfriend, and also you had a boyfriend from home. And we were at Biola University in LA, freshmen, 18-year-olds. And I was quite interested in someone from home as well. So, and then also my friend who had brought me was kind of interested in you. So like there was a lot of barriers in between us at that point. So there was a lot of like, she seems really cool, but
and I remember thinking that you were very cute, but that I was had my hands full. And that was not really on my radar. But it was like a moment, I feel like, where our souls recognized each other. And it was just like, interesting.
You've always had a problem fighting off boys more than I've had a problem fighting off girls.
Well, that's it. We'll save that for another time, maybe.
And then for the first, I don't know, year, we hung out a lot. It was kind of the 4 of us, that same friend, your roommate, and then the 2 of us, and just did a bunch of stuff, went to the beach, and we had a lot of fun that year.
We were just best friends. We were best friends for a long time.
And then you started dating someone else for a period of time. We didn't see each other very much for that. It was about a year. That
was a rough patch in my life, and I didn't really have many friends, and we didn't talk. And then right after I broke it off with that boyfriend, I remember, I think it was the next day, I ran into Kenny, just walking through campus. And
was that the rugby time? I was playing rugby.
I think so.
I was playing rugby, and we were like practicing, and you had an early class, and you walked by like the practice field. And I came over and said hi.
Was
that time?
I think so. So. That's what I'm picturing. And I was just pretty disheveled, and I was like, wow,
I can tell you were sad.
Nice to me. Like,
you were quite sad.
Yes, I was very sad. I haven't talked to you in a couple months, and I remember we would text back and forth like here and there, but that was all.
Yeah, I would like check up on you. I would text her and be like, hey, how's it going?
I was in a bad relationship. I wasn't really allowed to talk to anyone else per his rules. So well, anyway.
And so then, well, after that, we became quite close again. And that was more like, it was less kind of the group dynamic, and it was more like we were actually just friends. We would study together a lot. We'd eat lunches together and stuff. And
it was so fun to just be best friends first, because there were no like barriers put up, I felt like, and we didn't put on any pretenses that it was like, I need to pretend to be this person for you so that you'll like me. It was just like, here I am, like,
Yeah.
want to be friends. And we just got along from day one.
Yeah, that's probably the thing that's defined our relationship more than anything else.
Yeah.
It's just that a lack of kind of building a fake version of ourselves to present to the other person. Like we just have never done that. Probably because I've definitely tried to do that in other relationships that I had. I don't know exactly why. You think just because we had so many barriers between us when we first met?
I just don't really think it was on our radar
Yeah.
to like try and pursue something with each other.
Yeah.
It was
But
we
we were
both
also
had
always
other
so,
interests.
yeah, and we were always just so comfortable with each other.
Yeah, we always have been, and just silly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps. It helps.
It does
Inside
help.
jokes, man.
Yeah. Kenny hated accents.
I did.
Also, is it weird that I'm calling you Kenny?
No, it's fine.
He goes by Ken. I know that. It's a professional thing, but I've always known him as Kenny, so it's hard for me to call you Ken. But anyway, you hated accents, I remember, and I love accents. That's just like something I grew up doing.
Yeah, I thought they were so cringy.
Yeah, and I remember I would do one, and you're like, oh, okay. And then 10 years later,
yeah, you've worn off on me over time.
We pretty much only talk in accents.
A little bit of a dialect.
Yeah. So.
Well, so back to the narrative. So then I was studying abroad in New Zealand. I was scheduled to study abroad in New Zealand, and you were going to go. I was going for the fall semester of 2014, and you were going to go in the spring to Australia. And then we just went to lunch one day, and the folks that I was going to New Zealand with had a booth. It was like study abroad day or whatever. So there were booths set up, and the director of the program was there, and he said, well, if you can get other people to go, we need more people for the program. You can get other people to go, I'll pay for half your plane ticket. It's New Zealand, the plane ticket's not cheap. So and I was quite I didn't have a lot of extra income in college, and so yeah, I convinced her to come to New Zealand with me.
Yeah,
long story short.
Yeah, it was a tough sell. The Australia beaches were calling, but I was like, oh, sure, we can try New Zealand. And we went strictly as friends.
Yeah,
I remember.
And that worked out. Like we actually maintained that for quite a while.
Yeah. But it was a very small program. There was how many of us?
14, I think. 14 or 15.
Yeah, and we lived in an old convent in Kaikoura, New Zealand, and it was very intimate community program, wonderful program, changed our lives.
No Wi-Fi.
No Wi-Fi. No, yeah. Like we had to ride bikes into town and
you're off the grid.
Do our laundry by hand and everything.
We did buy a car together, which we were pushing the boundaries of the program quite a bit, because we bought a car together so that we could go on weekend trips and stuff. Of course, we used it for more than that, and that caused some issues. But
but we did some van life in New Zealand.
Yeah,
we lived out of a van for a couple weeks at a time, and I remember thinking, oh no, I think I could like him. Oh, okay, but what if that messes everything up, right? And then I remember you asked me if you could kiss me one night, and my response was like, oh no, this is gonna mess everything up, our friendship, like I don't know. And we kind of talked about it, and I was like, well, we've gotten this far as friends, let's just see. Like we both really liked each other, and so we started under the radar dating.
I waited till the next night to kiss it.
Yeah.
It felt pretty uncomfortable even asking you.
Yeah.
It just felt strange, but
I know. I
figured it was better than just, John Vervaeke talks about, like, one of his examples for like the relevant, like, how do you know if something's relevant or not, is how do you know if you should kiss somebody? Like for a first kiss, it's like there's so many factors, and should you do it or should you not? Like, man, with us at that point, there were so many factors involved.
Totally.
And I think that's really what it was. It was like there was too much riding on it.
Yes.
Like I didn't want to. Yeah, I definitely didn't want to jeopardize the friendship that we had.
And there were so many times it could have happened organically, but I think both you and I were scared that what if it messed everything up? And yeah, you're right. Like there was a lot weighing on that if it went south. And we were stuck in New Zealand together. So
Yeah, and at
there
that
was
point
that.
we were traveling in a van.
Yeah, yeah.
We'd been already 4 or 5 days in the van together at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we didn't start dating until we came back to the
Mhm,
States, and then we
mhm.
started dating.
But I will add real quick, when we were in New Zealand, we were both at our worst. Like both of us were at our most
Physically.
unattractive. Showers were pretty scarce.
Yeah.
Meals were I lived off of like chickpeas and eggs and barbecue
Yeah,
sauce.
you had some rough like dietary
Yeah,
issues going on
yeah.
too.
So just that is part of the story that I feel like was quite important, was we were both
Yeah.
just kind of at our
The no pretenses thing.
yeah,
I had
yeah.
someone who was quite impactful in my life early on who said to me, you should travel with somebody before you marry them,
Mm,
because
mm,
you'll either hate them or you'll marry them. And I mean, yeah, there were no pretenses at that point.
yeah. Kenny also had a huge beard. He looked like a mountain man.
Yeah, I didn't shave or cut my hair for, I don't know, 9 months,
Yeah.
10 months.
Yeah.
And I really shouldn't have done that shaving, because I had very little on the cheeks. It was mostly a neck beard. It was pretty gross looking back.
It was endearing.
Yeah.
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 Anyway, so then we started dating when we came back. The rest of college was pretty, like, I don't know, standard.
Yeah.
We just dated.
We were just each other's rocks, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we had all kinds of issues in finishing college and everything, and just
I don't know that
like,
we did so much between us as
right,
around
personally.
us.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was hard to integrate back into Southern California culture after living off the grid in New Zealand. That
Yeah.
was hard. And so I'm so glad we had each other.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then after graduation, we moved up here. We live in Oregon now. And this is where you were from.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether I was going to medical school or physician assistant school or what at the time.
Yeah. And now we live on a farm and we have a lot of animals. We live here with my parents. We take care of a lot of animals, and
Yeah.
we get to go walking in the woods almost every day, which is like our sanctuary and our time to just reconnect with each other, I feel like. Yeah, you have a wonderful job.
Yeah, well, we skipped a lot there.
Oh,
I mean, yeah.
yeah. So that's a try and block out a few of those years.
Well, yeah, because we moved up here. It was a year after we moved up here that we got married. I lived in your parents' basement.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We can't forget that.
Yeah, and you lived out here at the farm, and
Yeah.
we now currently live in a separate dwelling. We don't live with your parents. We live in a separate dwelling on the same property. And yeah, you worked a lot for like 5 years.
Yeah.
The first 3.5 years of our marriage in that year.
Yeah, I worked 3 jobs, 7 days a week. I was just out to prove something. We also completely revamped this farm as a horse boarding facility, and I poured my soul into it, and it was my life. Just building a business, and my parents were very gracious with that, letting me learn things and experiment on the way. I taught riding lessons a lot, which was
we should
wonderful.
bring in horses here.
Yeah.
Talk about horses a little bit.
Yeah, horses are a huge part of my life. I grew up riding. I think I started riding when I was like 3 years old, and grew up showing. It was wonderful. I actually grew up boarding my horse here at the property that we now live at. Long story short, it went into foreclosure, this property did, and my parents fought for 2 years to buy it. And we'd never had land or anything. So that was a huge transition for all of us mentally and physically. And college was really the only time in my life that I didn't have horses. I still had a summer job though that had horses. And then we moved up here and I got right back into it. Love it. Still love it. I just have a very different relationship with horses and horseback riding. We can get into that another time, maybe. I don't need to dive into that so much.
I mean, that's actually really great. Like, I mean, that's maybe the best vehicle vector relationship aspect of your life to talk about your journey on. Like, one of the best ones, because your journey with horses is really like symbolized a lot of your journey.
Internally.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Mostly, I would say shifting from a space of like masculine strength and control,
Mhm.
and shifting into a more feminine approach relationship with horses of more surrender and acceptance, I would say.
A dance, maybe.
I think, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And it's been tough. I've learned a lot of hard lessons along the way, and it's just one of those things where you have to forgive past versions of yourself. And there's ways in which, I mean, we all medicate when things get rough, right? But I've just learned a lot from horses, and I hope to continue to still learn from them. We still have horses. We have fewer horses than we did there for a while.
The max was like how many?
We had 10 at one time, but
Personally,
but
then we boarded another 25.
Yeah. I was in charge of a lot of
Yeah.
horses. And there was a time where I was buying them and training them and finding them good homes, reselling them, which was great. Like,
we made a lot of, we paid for actually a significant portion of my PA school, because all this time I was working in the emergency department, the local emergency department, and
overnight.
different, in a few different roles. I had a few different roles, but I worked a lot of nights and different things. It was pretty rough at different points. We just didn't see each other that much.
Yeah. And planning a wedding and all
and
of
then
that.
finally going to PA school.
Yeah.
After we'd been married a couple of years. Yeah, no, I mean, horses and just animals in general. I mean, I grew up with some animals, but I wasn't super close to them. Although when I was a young child, chickens were really important to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a chicken named Becca that there's a lot of pictures of me carrying her when I was like 5 years old or something. That was my thing.
Animals are just so good for the soul, so good for children.
Yeah. Well, I've learned so much from you with animals, like through you, in a sense. Yeah, I've learned a ton about it. Yeah, so we can talk. That would be a fun thing to really explore at some point. Yeah. I don't know. What else do you want to talk about in the narrative?
I think another important part of the last 5 years is that we have lived in a studio apartment for most of that time. And
400 square feet, 500 square feet, maybe.
Yeah. And it's nice. It's it's a wonderful place to live, but it's very small quarters, and everyone always wonders how we do that. And honestly, I have a hard time imagining a bigger house where I like couldn't maybe hear you where you were, and like I feel like we would get lost. And so I don't know how big of a role that has played in our relationship to be that physically close to each other. But I've loved that.
Yeah, we're probably the couple that's really annoying because we just are. It's not like we're hard to separate from each other, though. I mean, we can exist without each other.
Yeah.
Just fine, even at parties and everything.
Yeah.
But
we just really love being together.
Yeah, we're very connected.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the time.
Yeah, I was going to say there is a disclaimer that we're probably the mushy couple that people wonder what actually happens behind closed doors. But I'm here to tell you that like we are an open book, and this is pretty much us. We just love to hang out and be silly and love each other and learn to love each other better every day, I feel like.
Yeah.
I feel like you're my soulmate, and I'm just so glad that we found each other.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, I think we were talking the other day about just the difficulty that different people have, and friends of ours have had in trying to find someone, because I think especially the way things are today with the confusion of gender roles, the confusion of dating, especially like dating apps being the landscape. And I mean, there's so much. I get that. It's a picture that's like a veneer that's rotten underneath, right? Like it's this big veneer of like Disneyland, right? And then like right behind the veneer, it just turns into like rotten fruit or something. And that's kind of the whole landscape of dating and trying to find a person almost. And so it's we just kind of fell into each other was a good way to think about it, maybe. And so anyway, there's our story.
Yeah. And here we are with our little baby. And
and so, I think what we would like to do in this moving forward, so this is going to be a series moving forward where we're going to have conversations about specific topics. We wanted to do this as kind of a backdrop, as a context. This is kind of a little bit of who we are. This is how we relate to each other. This is just kind of the narrative framework of the story of Kenny and Elise.
If anyone is even interested in that.
I mean, maybe no one will watch this.
I know.
Which is fine.
Then we'll just document it for us.
Then it's just, we're going to treat it something like just a diary for us. And like we said, if there's something that's helpful for people, what we'll do from here on is probably pick specific topics, whether it's something, well, nothing's ever a closed topic. So whether it's something that was primary for us in the past and is now secondary, or is primary for us now, and just attempt to process it together. And hopefully the deepest goal would be to exemplify how what we have found to be productive and helpful and integrating of a way of how we work through things. And
I just wanted to say that we do not have everything figured out.
It's
if anything, really.
It's certainly not prescriptive, right? It's not like this is the way to do it.
So I don't want anyone to think that. And I would really like if people wanted to engage with us too and send questions, or be like, hey, what do you think about this topic? Just kind of fuel our fire. That'd be fun. We're just here to have fun and talk. And
I mean, pretty much I've done this YouTube channel as a exercise in exploration, right? Of what can this medium do? What can what kind of interesting and helpful and instructive conversations and territory can be found. And I mean, so far that's just been incredible for me as an individual, but you haven't been actually like a part of that kind of on the surface, although you've been obviously
through osmosis.
You've had to deal with me. Like, you've been very gracious in dealing with me before and after. Like, there's some of these conversations that I've been quite nervous about leading up to. You've been so helpful and kind.
It's been wonderful to watch. To get a front row seat and a backstage pass.
Well, so we'll see where we go. What should we talk about next time? Maybe we can foreshadow something.
Ooh, I don't know. Is there anything pressing that you?
I don't know. It seems like talking about what we have, like maybe a little bit of layering the narrative, and also then backgrounding the kind of conceptual of what our journey's been in exploring gender roles and how we work together and what feels good, right? Not from a top-down perspective that we've like forced ourselves into, but where we found ourselves and navigated some of that stuff.
Where it's really fallen into place.
Yeah.
It's when we stop trying to force it that it.
Exactly.
I think that is a great place to go from here. That, or I was gonna say, talking about kind of our internal spiritual journeys that we've gone on recently. I think both of those we should probably touch on at some point. But over the last few years, kind of that journey we've taken together, and I think that's a big part of our relationship.
Oh, absolutely. Without doubt.
So,
I don't know where I would be without you.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to think about that. So it'll be one of those topics, unless someone sends a question, and then we'll go from there.
Great. All right.